So Nani.the.tigress requested me on Patreon to do another week of Foster starting on September 1st through September 5th. It's another way to get more money in some other ways since I still don't have a job, but considering that this is yet again a way for me to showcase 5 more episodes off of Foster's, it's best that it shouldn't take up one slot of this month. So later this month, I am still going to do 2 videos off of 2 shows of my choosing while still doing this week regardless. Mondo Coco is an episode where Coco, after the front door of Foster's was wide open, Frankie told the other characters that it shouldn't be open, otherwise Coco will wander off. And since it ended up happening, Coco ends up going outside and going to different places around the world, while in the end of the episode, she comes back and Frankie didn't realize that Coco was gone throughout the entire episode. While the rest of the episodes of this week I have watched before, this is the episode that I have never ever watched before up until now, because truth be told, with an episode centering around Coco, it didn't really catch my interest, and just by sitting through this entire episode, it's not terrible despite the fact that season 6 wasn't really the best season in this entire show, but it really felt peaceful, and just seeing Coco go into different locations was the highlight for me, especially when she went to Japan. And since that the majority of the episode isn't meant to be taken seriously in comparison to episodes before and after, which there are some episodes that are worth taking seriously, just seeing Coco going through these scenarios when it comes to basically flash photography, that she is somewhat paranoid, even though that later on her modeling made her unparanoid, and the fact that when we witness her performing at a dance, not a dance club, but a musical club with Jamaican musicians, they really want to showcase Coco of what she does when it comes to the environments that she goes to. And if the other characters were in her place, they would probably question their environment, but at the same time, their way of handling the situation won't be as similar as Coco. And just by witnessing Frankie and Blue mostly taking most of the screen time, since that one of them barely cares that Coco is away, while the other, which is Frankie, is mostly oblivious on Coco's whereabouts, despite the fact that she hasn't seen her for days. Honestly, this is either Frankie being a little incompetent, or the fact that they just want to have some kind of excuse to have Coco be away while not having the same similarities as when Wilt went away, since that, unlike Coco, Wilt had a reason to leave Foster's. But then again, every time I see Coco on screen throughout this entire episode, with how season 6 isn't really the most focused aside from Destination Imagination, it really gave you the impression that these episodes are mostly, well, bottom of the barrel episode ideals, since that the following episode after this is Pranks for Nothing, which I did talk about 4 years ago. And if I'm ever taking into consideration the fact that the other episodes were just as fun, then at the same time, I'm sure that they probably wanted to showcase on the fact that they took the seriousness a little too much from this show, and they didn't have much ideals in order to showcase of the seriousness of what the characters would get themselves into. At least season 5 had some seriousness and scenarios that the characters need to go through, because every time I look at season 6, despite some good things here and there, most of the episodes felt like white noise. One of the final bits of this episode is that Coco falls in love with a Yeti, and with how short it is, it really feels like it was meant to be a short, but apparently it felt a little too long for a short compared to other Foster's shorts, and it led to the people working on this show translated into this episode as one of the final bits. Honestly, if there was a Yeti as an imaginary friend in Foster's, making an episode involving Coco falling in love with a Yeti is awkward, but I can guarantee you that they will probably have a difficult time expanding on it for 22 minutes with it being the only focus. Especially with it being one of the final... with the episode being one of the final seasons of this show. With the final scenes of this episode showcasing of Coco going through lava while getting arrested in a different country, and this leads to her and the other prisoner escaping by going to a festival of some sort, and she ate something that got her extremely sick, and then when the tire of the ambulance made a bump which causes Coco to fly out of the ambulance and straight back to Foster's, which leads to the squaws bringing her inside Foster's. Whilst the episode ends with Frankie closing the door and telling people to leave the door shut. If I considered this episode as filler and nothing else, honestly, the same thing will apply to other Season 6 episodes, considering that Pranks for Nothing has filler when it's mainly the fact that it's just handicapping one person. So just seeing Coco not being handicapped while going through scenarios that really feels white noise but not for the wrong reasons, that made me extremely bored. I would sit through this episode over for Pranks for Nothing. Truth be told, every time I think of this episode after watching it, it really feels like the white noise of Foster's episodes. Which isn't a bad thing, but considering that I was requested by reviewing this episode, it's honestly for the best to express on how much that this episode is somewhat entertaining, but at the end of the day, isn't really as good as the other Foster's episodes from the previous seasons, but at least it's not a terrible episode. With that being said, tomorrow's Foster's review will be centering around Coco again, and it will also focus on Mr. Harriman. I'm giving this episode a 5.75 out of 10.